We have been talking. You didn't miss anything of consequence. I was setting up the video or a little bit of the film, and but we're about to launch into some oral reports. Okay, take it away, oral. Devin is first. Let me put this over here so. And yes, you can hit record. I shall announce, this is the final session of our Deeper Judaism class, Introduction to Judaism. I will try to be as profound as I can be. Devin, there you go. Okay.
All right, so mine is going to be super short because I'm not going to lie, I did not have time to get anything on
Come
paper.
on.
But one thing I was trying to go for is figure out, when I started to try to research is, when is violence acceptable in the Jewish faith? And basically what I've pretty much come to figure out, just to keep it short and sweet, is Judaism as a whole is based on peace and on wholeness. I mean, even comes from shalom, is everything, peace and prosperity. I got a whole lot about peace and not a lot about violence. I'll just put it that way. Basically, there's a lot of focus on peace in your household, peace in your life, peace in your relationships. All I could really find was violence isn't necessarily at all focused on as far as that's something that we should believe in or do, but obviously we have when it's necessary. And talking to some folks that are much more Jewish than I am, who understand a lot more than I do, explained to me that the prayer would kind of work in where you would ask for forgiveness for yourself for having to do what you had to do in order to protect those that are in danger or there's a threat against, protect yourself, your family, your homeland. And Rabbi, please add anything because I know
I
that was
will, but
absolutely.
but you're doing great.
Oh, that's
It's struggle.
the
It's a
roundabout
struggle.
thing is what I got is you got to do what you got to do, but you ask for forgiveness for having to do what you need to do. So I don't know, I'm really sure if they answered a lot of questions for myself because I think I would still have the same beliefs, but it kind of at least gives me an overall understanding of where Jews stand on the subject. So
Why did you get into this? Because we talked about this.
what started out was the whole well, like everything nowadays, the whole Gaza thing. And how enraged I felt, as everyone did, with the way the Bebas family was paraded around on that stage and all these people celebrating like it's a wedding or a party over children's, coffins that were brutally murdered, and how absolutely disgusting that is. And then I always hear people saying that we should, pray for the people of Gaza, and how I felt it hard to pray for people that were doing harm, just to keep it clean. And I do understand that there was only a couple hundred people at that thing compared to, 2,000, well, much more that live in Gaza, that probably aren't bad people. And then even going down to a smaller, more minute point where when I watch some on TV, and not to be graphic, but say someone raped and killed my wife, and they're gonna be, they hold capital punishment, which I also know isn't supported in the Jewish faith really, but the family of that person would forgive them. I don't think I could do that. You raped and killed my wife. I want to watch you burn. But I understand too that some people come to terms with things, and what I gathered out of it, once again, about readings and really more like talking to people within our congregation here, our group, um, is that we all go back to God, and in the end of everything, we're all God's children. All of our souls return to God, whether they good, bad, indifferent. It's for Him to learn from, gather from. It's not my place. So I guess, while I don't see myself, I mean, God forbid anything like that happens to any of us or any of our families. I know bad things happen. I don't think it changes my view on wanting to, I guess, save a person that does something like that, but I guess I can understand at least praying for that person's soul afterwards. If that makes any sense in that rambling.
Okay. adding, but right here, it's right here. So
I don't
again,
think they could see the what you're on.
yeah, I was holding up the chapter in Tolushkin on Pikuach Nefesh. So you did great. And you know what? I'm going to ask you, not because you didn't finish it, but I'm going to ask you to go deeper in this and do it a little bit, just a little bit at your Beit Din. Talk about, say, how you use, and Rabbi Josh, because he'll be one of the rabbis, Rabbi Joshua Ginsburg Margot will probably comment. That a Beit Din also is often a dialogue, maybe more than they should, because they're all going to want to talk. Say, well, did you ever hear about this? So it's a concept that you probably have heard before. Some of you is Pikuach Nefesh, chapter 270 of Tolushkin, and everywhere else. Pikuach Nefesh means saving a life. Okay. So the idea of like saying it's Shabbat and the building's on fire, and I mean, we're not that religious, but if the building was on fire or somebody is in a house that's burning and it's Shabbat, you go and get the fire hose, you pick up the phone, you call 911, whatever, you do whatever you do because there is somebody inside. Or it could be a Torah, but more often it's a person. So then there's a number of things that Judaism is situational ethics. That's what I wanted to talk about a little bit in this final class. It is ethics, but it's often not absolute. It's when you're in this situation, and this relates to your thing too, to her talk. So if a man was told, this is a piece in the Talmud, a man is told, if you go kill so-and-so, or I will kill you. And so the answer that's given is, who says your blood is redder? Okay. Where was it? So the man is told one of the rabbis says, you should allow yourself to be killed rather than kill an innocent person. Okay. Of course, what Ravav, that's the name of the rabbi could have said, you have the right to go and kill the governor who issued that order against you. Why is it a question about your life versus this guy? The guy who gave you the order is breaking the law. But generally speaking, there are many times, this is what I was hoping you would get into a little bit. There have been many times in the Torah where they talk about peace and they go to a war against the city. And I think I did a talk on this in the past about the different kinds of war. There was, in the Torah, there was mandatory war. There was only one time when God said, go to war against the people who are living in that land, and that was once. Then there's a war of defense. It's called Milchemet Chova. Milchemet Mitzvah. And that was the example that always given to me is 6-day war, as opposed to the Vietnam War. Was the 6-day war was all these nations attacking, and you had to defend your personal people, your country, your land. And that's what happened on October 7th. There were people who were on Kibbutzim who grabbed the guns or whatever they could. So they were defending their own land, their own kibbutz. So a self-defense war. Okay. And the third kind of war was called this is Rambam said, I called it an optional war. The option doesn't mean optional, but it meant if you were told go and do a war against those people over there, which was what some people thought the Vietnam War was, but it's far away. You can't say they're attacking our borders. And in that case, oh, here she is. Here's Jamie. In that case, there are still things you must do, but in that case, there's the next passage that says, the priest goes before the people and says, who is it who has a home they haven't dedicated, who has gotten married, hasn't had their wife to be with their wife, or you planted a field, you go. It was deferments. So there were people when I was growing up that were saying that's what kind of war the Vietnam War was, as opposed to they're attacking right now. But what you're getting at also is when is, I don't want to call it revenge, but when is it necessary to fight back? And that's what people are going through in Israel. There's tons of people who, I would say, well, we are defending ourselves. And the Gaza situation is a great example. There are other people, even in Israel, not just crazy kids on Columbia or some campus here. There are lots of people in Israel who are not happy with the degree to which the Gaza destruction has been. But then the other people say, who brought it on? Hamas did. Hamas is so. Anyway, thank God none of us have to deal with this in our daily lives. But the idea, you have to look at each situation and say, am I saving someone's life by doing this? This goes to your topic, but I'm going to do a little piece before that. Nobody did autopsies, that again, related to what you're going to talk about. You're supposed to keep your organs, right? But what if there is somebody dies, let's say in a hospital, or in war, they can say, if you could prove that doing an autopsy will save someone else's life, then it's justified. It's not justified just willy-nilly. So when I was in the hospitals, they had ethics committees. They would go to a group of usually ministers and rabbis, and they would say, hey, the doctors are telling us they got to do an autopsy on this person. And what we'd have to say is, I would say, is it going to save someone else's life? All right, you take it from here. Right, two things on violence or on blood. Yeah, okay. Here, all right. I'm turning the computer around, and this is okay. Well, whatever. This is Taylor.
How should I do this?
Oh, unless you can plug it into that
Okay.
or into me. Let me see what you got there. Oh, just do it orally.
Okay.
Do it yourself. You have all that. Maybe you can send it to us later.
Okay.
She got inspired by what Jamie, there you are, Jamie, you inspired everybody to do PowerPoints. I'm even learning to do a PowerPoint. I'm doing a class tomorrow. If anybody wants to tune in at 12 o'clock, I'll send you the link or record it, but this is a class on Israeli poetry. Oh, eat. Are those from you? Who made the conditions?
Burekas.
Borekas, that's her report. Okay.
It's
All right.
not.
Okay.
You told me to change topics.
Oh, okay.
It's not, but I still
Okay.
made it.
Well, but you can do part of that too. Okay, Taylor.
Okay, I'll just show you guys my PowerPoint because I needed to think. So I did mine on ethical considerations of organ donation.
Speak loudly enough that they can hear at home too.
Oh.
Let me see if do I have the volume up? All the way? Yes. Stephanie, if you would text me or the online that you can hear her okay. Okay.
Oh.
I don't want to make you chum around here. Camera's facing you now. Go ahead.
So I chose this topic. This is Leo, my son. He's 6 now, but this was right after his heart transplant. That was us in the hospital. What's that?
How old was he?
He was 4 months when he got his transplant. He was about 6 months here. We were there for 7 months total.
He had to stay in the hospital for 7 months?
Yep, he was born there. We were home for like 2 weeks and then it was blue and we had to helicopter him back to Denver. And then we weren't able to go home till he got a new heart. So obviously very grateful.
Yes.
How it turned out. So we were just talking about the Pikuach Nefesh. Jewish law does not apply when a person's safety or health is in danger.
Wait, say again?
That basically
Pikuach?
Pikuach Nefesh.
Yes, and you said Jewish law does not apply?
Well, that's what my Jewish learning said, that it doesn't really apply when like health is in danger, like for Shabbat. Say like breaking Shabbat.
The laws of Shabbat are are disregarded
Right.
when pikuach.
I think that's what they meant,
Pikuach
like,
means to save.
this is like the
Okay,
highest law,
yeah,
basically,
okay.
right? It's based on Leviticus 18:5. You shall therefore keep my statutes, which if a man do, he shall live by them. Then in the Talmud, it was added that he shall live by them and that he shall not die by them. For example, Leo has to take his heart immune suppression every 12 hours, every day, can't be late, can't miss. I guess that would technically be work, but doesn't, I can do it on Shabbat, still be within Jewish law because of pikuach nefesh.
Oh. Mhm.
General views are organ donation is permitted and encouraged under Jewish law. The conservative movement adopted the position in 1995 that organ donation is actually required versus just encouraged. They were
Right.
telling people, no, you need to do this. You must not accelerate the death of a donor. That would be akin to murder.
Mhm.
The donor must be declared dead prior to organ harvesting. And living donation, like with a kidney, is permissible only if it will not cause death to the donor. And things like blood transfusions, bone marrow are low risk to the donor, so those aren't really an issue. The Haredi, is it Haredi Jews?
Haredi.
Haredi, okay. Or the ultra Orthodox, as some call them, they have stricter standards. They still are for organ donation, but they have stricter standards on what the definition of death is. So heart transplants may be forbidden for some ultra Orthodox Jews because the heart has to be actively beating to be taken out, donated. But I think there's some debate in that. Well, like, I know in most cases that I'm aware of, like the person's dead, but they keep the heart beating on a machine until the surgeon
Can I
get
just
there.
interject? There's brain death and there's heart death. I'm not a medical person, but I learned a lot about this working in hospitals. So if a person is brain dead, but the heart is still functioning, or they kept it alive,
Mhm.
then that could be considered viable. But again, the Haredim are more strict, because if the heart's still working, then technically you're still alive. I mean, it's weird, but yeah.
And now they're actually doing donation after cardiac death called DCD transplants. So I guess that would be okay in this for them in this situation.
DCD.
The original reasoning for being against all organ donation was that the body must be intact when the Messiah comes, but they disregarded that notion as modern medicine came about. Most rabbis agree on the life-saving potential outweighing this concern. And then there's is it halachic?
You're doing right. You're
Okay.
doing right.
Organ
Well,
donor?
The first letter is an H, is a hey. Ha, la, ha. And you'll see it spelled CHA or KHA, so you know that is a chaf, the ch.
Mhm.
Take Matani's Hebrew class next. Okay. Yeah.
The Halachic Organ Donor Society,
I'm proud of you.
they have an organ donor card specific to them. And you can check which type of death you wish to donate organs if that situation arose. So you can say, if my heart's still beating, brainstem death only, don't donate. Or either or. What these cards do is they require the deceased person's rabbi to be consulted prior to organ donation.
Say that
And
again. The card says what?
it tells in what circumstances you'd want your organs to be
Which also
donated.
The doctor or the rabbi or
Yeah, and it says the person's rabbi must be consulted prior to
Oh.
organ donation. And they have like you can't really see it, but I'll send it out. But it says, make your last mitzvah the most important one. So there's kind of a campaign that even if you're ultra Orthodox, to still donate to some capacity. And that was all I had.
To everybody, speak up so that it's recorded. Okay. I don't like to comment after everyone, but this one is very personal.
Oh, thank you.
My father, Max, had kidney failure, or progressively over time, starting at age 50 or so, maybe 55, which got to the point where he had to, you're familiar with dialysis. So, and dialysis is very, it saves you, but it's very exhausting. You go through, anybody know anybody with that? So you go through a week, and by the end of the week, you're like dragging totally, your body is exhausted. Then you have the dialysis and you're fine for a while. So he lived with that. My parents traveled, around, and wherever he went, he had to have some place to go for dialysis. And I know he was 68. I don't remember the exact year when he was put on a list for a kidney transplant. No, I was asked, I don't even know whether I was compatible. I don't think he wanted me to donate. You all know living person can donate a kidney. If worst case scenario, I think I might have been compatible, and we talked about it. But at a particular time, they were driving in LA and they were on their way somewhere, and they got a call. And he was on a list at UCLA hospital, UCLA Medical Center. And the kidney was a cadaver kidney. It was a person who had a donor card, who had probably been either died, maybe a car accident, nothing horrible, and so he got the kidney transplant. And the reason I mention this is, you can add a name to your name. I am Moshe, and that's all I had. It was one name, and I added the middle name Raphael, which means, healer or healing angel, because I got into healing. I got the idea because my father, when he got the kidney, when he was feeling better, went to the synagogue where they belonged, Valley Beth Shalom, Rabbi Schulweiss's synagogue, and Harold Schulweiss called him up for an aliyah, and he had, the Torah blessing. And there, at that moment, he took the second name, Chaim. What does Chaim mean? Life. Hey, she got it before you. That's cool. Yeah, life. Now, so Leo, hey, that's a really cool thing. I hadn't thought about it. If you want to give your kids a name, you could call Leo, you could give Leo a second name, label Chaim, or I'd suggested Lev Chaim or whatever. But Chaim, so anyway, you take a second name to mean something significant. But so my father for the rest of his life was Mordechai Chaim. And it really meant a lot to him that, Rabbi Schulweiss, this is a big synagogue, that they called him up, gave him a blessing, and he had the aliyah, and he took this new name. And my father lived 10 more years, from 68 to 78. And in those 10 years, he was able to, with the kidney transplant, now he was taking, what are those things called? Immunosuppressants, yeah. So he was able to see, I think there's 3 kids, my sister's kids. I think he was at one bat mitzvah, at Shayna's bat mitzvah, and that was when he got really sick. And then because of the kidney transplant, he was able to come back to Cleveland for the Aiden's bar mitzvah and Mira's bat mitzvah, and then I think possibly nobody's married yet, but one of the other kids' confirmation. So he really lived. It was incredible. And so my mother, I believe this topic was at some meeting. It was in Cleveland, and they were saying, "Oh, you're not supposed to do that," and all that. And my mother got up and said, "How dare you?" And said to everybody there, "You should all sign up to be a donor," and Max was gone. Dad was dead. My mother got up and said that, "What are the mystical," did you just write that? Oh, this is the other JT. "What are the mystical Kabbalistic thoughts on organ transplantation regarding spiritual attachment to donors?" Jamie, you're asking what you mean, could somebody feel Kabbalistically like that person's heart is, like those movies? Or do you mean, my father did do a blessing Now, he didn't know the donor, but at that moment, he said a blessing of thanks, of gratitude. I don't think the family was there, but he wanted the universe to know how grateful he was that this person had done that. Is that what you're asking, Jamie?
I think she's asking, I've heard of. that Some religion doesn't allow their kids to get transplants because they think, or like blood transfusions because they think that.
Yeah.
Boldness,
Is that what it is?
I think so.
No, there again,
think
pikuach
that's what she-
nefesh would take precedence over everything. You know, you're saving that person's life. That is what's the most important thing.
Mhm.
But I don't think, no, I've never heard of anybody, you'd think with all the Kabbalistic stuff that people talk about, I don't get it started, but you know, in Kabbalah, in some of the more esoteric things, you can receive a message from somebody who's on the other side. And if you remember the story, the Dybbuk is a story about a guy who is obsessed when his fiance dies, and he prays and he does all kinds of weird stuff that you're not supposed to do Kabbalistically, and instead she possesses him. But she's not her. She's this, you know, this demonic figure. So there was a play and a movie, a book about it, a short story. But no, normal things. Does that answer your question, Jamie? She's not.
She's probably that tablet she's on.
Oh, she was okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I just
All right.
answered.
Next, we got to watch the clock so we have enough time maybe for the movie and for some other discussions. Next, you want to go, Rick, or you want to?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm walk you guys in the kitchen.
Huh?
Walk you guys in the kitchen.
You're finished? Come and sit here. Bill.
I'll walk you in the kitchen.
Oh, we're gonna go in the kitchen.
Mine's a field trip one.
Oh, okay. All right.
You guys, can you pull the computer?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, just so,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll unplug that. Sure. You want to carry it?
okay.
Okay. Just so whoever's on can- All right.
All right. Awesome.
That way the World Wide Web.
Yeah. Just make sure the dogs know to stay.
Oh, they the kitchen gets their bug buddy.
And right after this, we're gonna eat some knishes. I never go this way.
They're beautiful.
Okay.
Lights. Oh,
Camera.
oh, that's the main light. Okay. Wait a minute. That light's supposed to go on too. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're on your computer. This one is out. This one, all right, yes.
There we go. That's your kitchen. So we have dairy, all our dairy dishes. This is when it was big.
Yeah, it's still, they have it all from the old days.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is all the meat side.
And
So
this thing.
this was prior to when it was 500 people. Now we're at 50. And this is part. So the reason I love this is because it's a good separation. We have all our Passover dishes downstairs. Because Passover has meat in it. And then what I made tonight for us was what I'm making for the women's dinner, so I'm experimenting on everyone tonight. So there's thick noodles, thin noodles, there's peeled noodles, and there's skin noodles. And then the important thing was,
Sorry.
so what I've been learning a lot more is looking for kosher symbols. So there's the U, so the circle.
OU, Union of Orthodox Rabbis, whatever it's called, OU.
So this is for the minestrone soup,
Yeah.
again, the U.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm doing also noodles or zucchini noodles.
Mhm.
Half the women want zucchini noodles.
Right.
So I got these.
If I can just interject, OU is, it's considered to be the highest or the most well-known or the most official. Whereas just having a K does mean it was certified, but it's not as respected as OU.
So that's the U right here
Mhm.
on the bread flour. in meat
Yeah,
and
say
hamburger.
OU.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, because the O is part of it, a Union of Orthodox.
it is,
Yeah.
but I don't, it looks like an O.
I know, I'm just telling you, I'm moving you along.
So this is the type of flour that we never get for all the bread. So we're gonna do French rolls, minestrone soup, the 2 types of pasta. Now I'm just gonna make an Israeli salad. And then I'm going to do an apple. Oh my God, Amber's gonna yell at me.
Strudel?
No, it's like an apple pie that's all. It's like apple pie scrambled with apple crisp. That's what it is, right? It's apple scranberry, yeah, whatever. So that's what we're gonna do. And tonight you guys are trying it. So I have other ones. If you liked it, then I want you to try it with the skin and without the skin. You two are my main guinea pigs. I'm sharing. So did you like the pasta?
Yeah, I love
It
it.
tasted okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Nice.
I love zucchini anyway, so to me, I didn't know it was a pasta, I thought it was just,
I did not know Parmesan cheese was not kosher because they read it.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
So I have to go to Eastside Deli tomorrow to go get the kosher Parmesan cheese for dinner. And I asked, because Jason sent me a thing about vegan cheese. I was like, is it not the same as the
No.
kosher one?
no, Jason.
I don't know. I wanna hear it.
Yeah, vegan, yeah.
No.
Well, vegan means no milk either.
Oh, no, milk.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's
plant-based.
plant-based, yeah.
Okay, so I'm learning a lot of that.
Right.
What goes on in the kitchen, the whole. I've cut out a lot of dairy in my diet, and I was like, I feel better in the restroom, and I was like, you've been intolerant to dairy, and I was like, you just figured that out. I was like, yeah, yep,
Took a little time.
yep. I grew up with.
You
with-
didn't know that you were lactose intolerant?
No, I didn't until like it's kind of a process, and then I was like, I'm not lying on the toilet anymore. It's been a great experience.
This is being recorded.
It's been a great experience. God has provided his wisdom on me. I wish he did this when I was younger, but now I have it.
All right, more on the kitchen, and by the way, Sam and Emily, if you don't mind chiming in, this is a good unit. See, what else can you figure out from this layout, how you might apply it at home,
They have a separate board for meat,
right?
so you can
That is
keep
the-
everything kosher. So
That is meat side, and this is the dairy side.
Correct. And this is this kind of cover,
Oh, this used to
Because-
be a.
because
used
this
to be
is
a
all
soup
wood.
kitchen. They used to make, there's actually gas. And
underneath, this
yeah,
was.
right here. If you look on this side,
Okay,
there's burners. So this used to be like a cafeteria.
okay,
So I don't know how they did that. I mean,
all right.
bless them.
Yeah.
I noticed the meat's red.
Yeah. So you guys want to, either from what I did with you or what you've done since on your own.
everything's stainless in here, which makes it really
Yeah.
easy to keep kosher.
That's
If
the
you
new
mess
thing.
up, you
Yeah.
can just
Uh-huh.
re-kosher it.
How do you go on, because we're recording,
Uh,
how do you kosher, let's say it's Passover coming up. And you wanna kosher the whole area, you got stainless steel, what do you do?
Boil a ton of water. Preferably you have a different set of dishes, but if you don't, then you want it to be kosherable. So preferably like glass,
Okay.
it's not a porous plate dish. So that could be kosherable, but it's best practice to have a separate set of dishes. But if you ever make a mistake, you can re-kosher something by boiling it, depending on the surface. So when we koshered our kitchen, we bought a lot of stainless. So as we're learning and eating kosher, if we make a mistake, we are not totally making an error, we're stuck with it.
Right.
So we tried to like foolproof our kitchen that way. Did you have to remodel? We have a stainless steel sink. So when we go from milk it to flesh egg, we just like boil water and like pour it in. And then we run the dishes through the dishwasher. That's also been run just with whatever we're eating for that day.
We do here too.
And then we switch it back.
Mhm.
So usually we just try to keep it milk based, so we are vegetarian. So that way it's easier. And then if we have meat, we try to do it at the same time, so that way we're not pre-koshering between meals all the time.
If we have a little cow that we put out.
Oh, yeah.
It's not.
Simple.
That's a good idea.
They just have a little symbol saying,
Yeah.
this is the status of the
Yeah.
kitchen, the
Yeah.
area.
It's
a good idea.
Yeah, 'cause we don't,
It
I
helps
mean,
a
our
lot.
kitchen at home isn't big enough to have a whole separate.
Yeah.
space
It's
for-
too much.
It works
So-
great. It
Yeah,
works
so we
great.
kind of made it.
No, that's
as
super
modular
smart.
As possible.
Right.
So we just have two separate sections of the kitchen.
I think
too,
we should
for,
do
like,
that in
airing or
Passover. That's a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah, this is good.
More just, I think we had a unit on this, but now it's practical. Other things have to do with, or there's space allocations, there's color coding. If you had like a kind of silverware that had a pattern on it, you could say that silverware is the fleshig, or it's the nicer silverware, or this one is the milkig, or you could also say, you know, white and green, or white and blue or something. But the materials, that's what's interesting, is glass can be any, not just glass that you have, but say you have glass dishes, you could put them in the dishwasher. And I would say convert them, but if it did get traced up or so, no, whatever, it's still easy to fix. Ceramic is not, at least in the diaspora. So that's why that area and those plates can tell the difference also about the way they look.
Dairy.
This is the dairy, even though it has red, and those guys are that's the
So many people used to be here, right? So many people used to be here.
so what?
So many people used to be here.
Yeah, well, I know, it's a marvelous thing. The job I was given on the kibbutz, on the Orthodox kibbutz where I was working as a, you know, 19-year-old, was running a big commercial dishwasher. I mean, it was bigger than this, and it would come over here, and so I would have to put stuff in there. But I was surprised to find out that people, you know, on a kibbutz, you eat in the main dining room, but you can also eat at home. You know, a little kitchenette. So people brought their own dishes from their homes for me to kosher. And in Israel, you can kosher plastics because they say it's a different quality of plastics. So I'm getting all these things from home. So anyway, what else? Anybody else want to contribute? Have you learned a lot, Rick?
Yeah, I
It's
have,
practical, huh?
no,
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 14:27, like it's been a lot of.
What is that?
It's about the don't bully your. kid.
Don't boil the kid in the
But- and then-
milk. Yeah,
And then we talk about what fish are viable. Like for us, it's only fish on with a scale, catfish, not going to happen.
mhm,
My dog will eat it all day.
right.
The same way, if I ever did the kosher butchering class, like if I mess up, dog's gonna eat good.
Yeah.
You know?
We did find that out, so you can look about dog food, and dog food doesn't have to be kosher.
No, but
No, but
But
then
we're
what you
like, where
do.
do we put it?
Yeah.
There are people-
if I do the kosher butchering and I mess up,
Right,
then I'm like, dogs are gonna be happy.
they're gonna love you.
They're gonna be like yelling at me like the whole time, barking like, miss.
When I was, when I had cats, I had the regular cat food and I would just prepare it in the bathroom or somewhere else and throw it away. I never washed it in the sink with the other stuff. But there are people who are that strict that they will only buy kosher food for the dogs and cats.
88 cents for a can of tuna.
What's that?
88 cents for a can of tuna.
Yeah.
If you look at can of cat food, it's like $1 something.
Hmm.
I give my cats a can of tuna because when it goes bad, I don't have to smell it. It doesn't turn gray. The
Right.
dogs will eat it.
Uh-huh.
But I figure it's par and it's easier for me to deal with.
Yeah,
And it's just expensive. Cat food is so expensive now that 88 cents a can of canned tuna. You're like, really? Why am I giving my can
Mazel
preservative?
tov, mazel tov. You're a real Jew now. You have cats?
Yeah, and they gave the dog.
And
back.
these two guys tolerate that.
I got a
Okay,
thing of
let's go
giving
back.
the big dog a bath.
Otherwise, we're gonna run out of time.
Any more pasta I can make somebody? Besides-
Don't make more, but
I
yeah,
have to cook it.
bring more out if you want to. But we're here to finish our plan. Okay,
I'm also learning.
how's everybody doing online? Jamie, are you okay? Joe? All right, well, we're being recorded. All right, I want to have a knish. And, huh? And
They're different.
Borecas. I mean, I kept on calling them knishes because somebody said something about knishes. Oh, that's why. Okay. All right. Do you want to sit here to, okay.
So I want to apologize in advance to everyone because I thought we had to do a paragraph.
That's all
So
right.
I did a paragraph.
Okay.
Do you mind if I touch it or do you want to grab it yourself?
Oh, well, bring one over.
Just bring the tray that way.
I want to write
You like
that.
one?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
I did it right before I
Mhm. Oh, those are excellent. Boy, no, could learn a thing or two from you. Those are homemade? You
Yes.
made that with phyllo dough?
Well, it's a long story, but I was gonna make a knish
Mhm.
and because we got them at Eastside Kosher Deli and we didn't like them. It's kind of a bummer. So I wanted to make some.
Use
And
your
then-
with egg stuff too.
Mhm. And then the knish recipe was too long, everyone. So I decided to use puff pastry and I was just gonna wing it. And then today we saw a recipe of a bureka. It's spelled Boureka. And it's an Israeli dish that uses puff pastry. And I was like, I guess this is what I'm making. So it just worked out.
The Fardic Israeli dish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so my topic was from a chapter summary in Telushkin.
Oh, this is Emily.
I'm
For the
Emily. So my topic is for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So in summary for this ethics topic, it's very Torah based. And there's many times where the Torah will say, well, of course, mention Egypt, but specifically talking about strangers in the land of Egypt. So the Torah reminds Jews to treat strangers with connection and respect. If I were going to summarize the section, those are kind of like the two big points of treating strangers with connection and respect, and how those can be really strengthening for a community together, but should also be honored individually. So I have some Torah quotes for this point. The first is Leviticus 19:34.
Mhm.
The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. An important point that Telushkin touches on with this is this holds true even if you had a challenging past. So you can't use your excuse of a struggle or a challenge as a way to treat someone else poorly. The Torah insists that humans learn from their past sufferings to become a more compassionate person to others who are presently suffering. So I had, even in Telushkin, there was multiple more quotes from the Torah, but I just wrote down two more. The first is Exodus 22:20. You shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And the next is Deuteronomy 24:17. You shall not subvert the rights of the stranger or the fatherless. Remember that you were a slave in Egypt and that the Lord your God redeemed you from there. Therefore, do I enjoin you to observe this commandment. And that is my presentation.
Mhm. Offhand, do you remember, did it say somewhere how many times that statement or statement like it is made in the Torah?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It was countless.
About 40.
Yeah. Okay. I did. Yeah.
40
it's so
different,
many.
I mean, I may be wrong, I'm 39, might be 42, but somewhere, a lot, all over, mostly Leviticus and Deuteronomy, as you said, and also Exodus even. Excellent. Anybody want to comment without going too far into the political sphere on why that verse and why Jews have been involved in whatever you want to call it, activities helping the stranger?
Mm.
You ever hear of something called the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society? HIAS for short, HIAS. At the beginning of the 20th century, there were Russian Jews, Hungarian Jews, poor people coming into like New York City. And then after the World War II, obviously there were people coming out of the Holocaust also. So it used to be, and then the Russian Jews, the Soviets, and it used to be our people. And I'm not saying we ran out of people to help, but now the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society is one of the agencies that a person could turn to for help if they're not a Jew. So this I'm talking about what's going on with asylum seekers.
Mhm.
Does anybody hear about any of this? All right. And so the guy who attacked the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
his rationale was the Jews are helping these people. You know, they're all, so we don't win, you know, we have trouble taking care of ourselves, our own, and then other people are saying, you know, so we have always been involved with that. And even in Israel, you'll find this out when you're there. There are Jewish immigrants from Ethiopia, and so there are Black Jews, there are people who came from America who also are Black, but there are also any number of immigrants from other countries, just like here, that come there, not illegally, but they come as workers. And this what happened. Some of the people who were kidnapped on October 7th were, I think it was a Taiwanese guy, you know. So there are people who are like in this country. There are people who are like, a lot of them get involved with caregiving. Noam's dad is healthy, you know, he's an older guy, but his wife is, what can I say, mentally not all there. So she lives with the daughter in another area and has a caregiver. And Yaakov is very close to this woman who takes care of his wife. So yeah, I mean, but that line, you must remember the stranger because you were strangers, is it's practiced and sometimes it has to be reminded. People have to. Excellent. Good job, everybody. All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh, there's a comment.
What?
Oh, thanks, Jamie.
Oh, it's just a great job. Oh, you were there, Jamie. Okay. Well, look, guys, let me ask you this. This video, a part of it I want to show, but what? Oh, there's another guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Oh, we forgot.
No, it's just that I'm thinking of the newest Jewish. Okay. This is the oldest Jewish. All right, Sam.
So,
Let me see, bro. You want? Okay, there you are.
so I wrote mine on Jewish views on business.
Mhm.
So the authentically Jewish approach to business ethics begins by shattering our popular conceptions of morality. I didn't write that, it was a quote. Unlike other belief systems, Judaism views on business has the same capacity. Unlike other belief systems, Judaism views business as having the same capacity for sanctity as any other aspect of life.
Hmm.
It is said in the Talmud that the first question we're asked after death is, did you do business in good faith?
Hmm.
The reason for this is that there is a deep moral good to be discovered in business activities. We want to be able to look back at our lives and be able to tell a compelling story about how we created real value, impact, dignity, not through self-sacrifice and high-minded acts, but through the simple daily act of good faith business activities. Ethical business is not based on an exhaustive set of rules. It is about dealings that have a potential to positively impact all the people we interact with on a daily basis. On a practical level, we're told to go about our business in a mindful way that creates a level playing field that the weak and powerful alike need protection from exploitation. We should always look to create a balance in transactions so that debtors and creditors alike are motivated to enter into deals. Clarity as to the true nature of a transaction is a pathway to morality, and we should look to create opportunities. Then I just kind of wrote a bunch of like notes and questions and stuff.
Okay, go.
He
He is a businessman.
Yeah. So one can do well by being good. Business is an expression of integrity. Are you creating opportunities or opening doors for others? There's dignity in our work, and our work can create dignity for others. Unreasonably high or low prices must meet an exceptional standard of disclosure. Adherence to local customs and laws is important, but is considered the bare minimum. A loan, particularly zero interest, creates dignity far beyond that of charitable giving. And at its core, business is an act that facilitates the creation of community and society. It can help transform all the nations to a higher state of being.
Questions, comments? Don't all speak at once. Do you remember the passage? What's the main passages that are brought in to that area in Torah? The reason I mention it is the same as that Leviticus 19, right? All that whole section of Leviticus 19, sometimes called the Holiness Code, says you must have honest weights and measures. And elsewhere in that same passage, it's what we read it on Yom Kippur, and it says you must not keep the wages of a laborer until the morning, meaning like I can't pay you because I haven't gotten paid yet. Well, no, the guy just worked, all day. You got to pay him at the end of the day or the next day or something. Application, 2 quick stories. There was a real story, and then it was made into an episode of the Mod Squad, the first Mod Squad back when I was a kid. But you guys, Mod Squad's been around now, but this actually happened. There was a Jewish landlord in Harlem or thereabouts, Bedford-Stuyvesant area, whatever. But, like my grandfather, my dad's father, had worked his way up where he was a plumber, and then he owned a house, and he owned another house. So my grandfather owned a couple of buildings, not wealthy, and he made sure to not be like the man in the story. So in this story, this guy was, taking advantage of the people who rented from him. They didn't do repairs. They had rats, they had cockroaches, and so on. So they took them to a Beit Din. Some Jewish person or a group of people found out about this and took the man to a rabbinical court where because they thought it would have some impact. So that story was made into an episode of the Mod Squad. Second story, it's really quite applicable. It's also related to Rick's topic, is I don't remember the name of the company, but it's one of those massive, kosher food is really great. Okay. But in order to have all those chickens, from chickens and all these big, massive butcher companies. So there was Rodowski or something. There was a company that was well known, not here, but in Wyoming, maybe it was North Dakota or something, that had a lot of illegal immigrants or people with whatever various kinds of situations, and they were paying them lousy and they were treating them badly, and the excuse was, hey, you know what, we could turn you in or whatever. So again, the company was taken to task by the Jewish community, and people would say, don't buy your meat from this particular butcher company. So there you go. Okay, guys. So in the remaining time, I want to do one more. Tzedakah. The basic meaning of tzedakah. Did you ever hear of the 8 degrees of tzedakah by Maimonides? Okay, this is,
Heard
and,
of it, I
huh?
don't- I've heard of
Okay,
it, but-
you don't have to know all of them, but in order, the first, there are 8 levels, and there were, other people did it too. Maimonides did it. Joseph Cairo, there was a common thing, as I've told you, during the Middle Ages, to come up with tables, you should do this and this and this, and so, but the most popular one is Maimonides. And, they go in order from, well, lowest to highest. The short version is, let me see, the first degree is give, unwillingly. Somebody comes and they guilt you into giving, all right? But you give it, all right? Another level is, I have it exactly right. Another level is give as much as you should, but again, unwillingly. Then another 3, 4, 5 is give openly, so that it has to do with anonymity. Give so the giver knows who the receiver knows who the giver is. Here's $25, here's whatever. Then it's I believe it goes like this: the giver knows, but the receiver doesn't know. Okay, so you give to the rabbi, and the rabbi gives it to that person. Then the next one after that is neither one knows who is. The giver doesn't know the receiver doesn't know the giver. They used to have in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, they used to have like an entrance where you would go into a dark room and leave a deposit. And when I was growing up, they had tzedakah boxes, big, like a box, and people would put money in as they were coming in. And it was a common thing to give a donation. And it was just going into the general fund of the synagogue, but it also went to help people. Then it goes into the issue of, anyway, the last degree is the degree that you commonly call teach a man to fish, right? So giving somebody, training them, come back, Rick. Oh, okay, he's going to do some more. So in that context, it's supposed to be anonymous, and it is important to do that, but I just wanted everybody to know that Sam and Emily helped out Josh, and you all know it by now. And I've been bawling out or generally making it known to our board members that we have an opportunity to help a guy who's in need, and it's great. It's fantastic. So, okay, anybody have burning questions that you can always ask me, you can always email me, but we're going to show just a little bit of this film.
What did you put on the top of this? I'm sorry, I missed that one.
That's a question. It's an egg wash, yes.
Sesame seeds?
Yeah, it's really, you know what, Em, that's professional. That's professional level. Yeah. She followed a
I'm
recipe.
watching it back there, and I just missed from the walk here to there, the apple was after puff pastry plus 3 seconds.
All right, and you know what? It's already 8:15. I want to show just enough of this so you go out and get it, find it. This is my copy of the Jewish Americans. There's so much now that's on YouTube that you don't have to buy it. I want to recommend several films on the Holocaust that I have bought over the time that I've been here. The Zookeeper's Wife is a true story. It stars, gosh, what's the name of that actress? I can't read the print that's that small. Anyway, it's about a couple that ran a zoo, and they were able to, Daniel Brewer, Jessica Chastain and her husband successfully run the Warsaw Zoo and raise their family, but the country's invaded by the Nazis. And they get permission to keep the zoo running, but barely. and they end up the Zabinskis, they end up taking in Jews seeking shelter. So these Jews are living down below the zoo in these little, they're not living with the animals. They kept people hidden in cages. In the end, they were caught, the Zabinskis, but people survived.
Adam Sandler?
Huh?
Adam Sandler movie? What?
Zookeeper's Wife.
Was that a modern Adam Sandler?
No, you're talking about Zoolander.
No, not Zoolander, but.
Adam Sandler did not do a Holocaust movie. You just saw, there was just a new Oscars, and Adrian Brody won Best Actor. This is his first movie called The Pianist, about the life of Vladislav Spielman. I told you about the ghetto. He lived outside the ghetto, but in an abandoned building that was had been blown up. And he lived there in the building, and there's a strange encounter. It tells you his life, early life. He was a concert pianist, and a very good one. And
He wasn't deaf for being not a essential worker.
no, he survived.
But he wasn't considered an essential worker, so they would have been deaf if he actually.
No, what he did was he hid. He was hiding.
Right, but if they put it into.
Yeah. He managed to survive, but he was living in this abandoned building, and at one point, I don't want to give it away. At one point, it's very late in the war, but a German officer comes in and discovers him and doesn't report him. And I don't know if the German guy survived either, but he did, Spielman. So at the end of the movie, they have a segment with Spielman actually. The real Spielman playing a concert. Schindler's List. Okay.
So I harassed this, so.
You harassed Jeff? Yeah.
So I had asked about, I understand all the kosher food stuff.
Right.
That's all on domesticated animals.
Mhm.
So historically, we hunted. There's no prayer after you hunt, make the meat kosher, so. There you go.
Fascinating. Well, you haven't asked a question, but there is hunting in
You have plenty
the,
to ask, say, right?
huh?
You have plenty to say though, right?
No, yeah. Well, there is hunting in the Bible.
Right.
What's his name? Jacob and Esau both hunted for dad, right? Yep.
And that was not something we can keep.
All pre Sinai.
Yeah.
First of all, what the rabbis would do with that is they would say, "Oh, well, he did this, he did that." They always say, well, how come Abraham has 3 visitors? And he says, "Go get some meat and go get some cheese." Oh, no, he meant the cheese first, and then he waited an hour and they gave him the meat later. So the rabbis always have an excuse. So, but the answer is yes, hunting took place. And then later on, it became, well, you could kill an animal, but only if you killed it in a kosher manner.
Right.
So you couldn't hunt, you couldn't bow and arrow it, because that would
If
be,
you bow and arrow it, as long as you got to it and put out its misery by making sure you bled it.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you, yeah, Ben likes to hunt.
Interested.
A lot of people in this area like to hunt.
Yes.
So it's just like everything else in your life. You can say, I'm going to have my kosher on Shabbos and my treif after the hunting trip, or sublimate it and do fishing instead, because fishing is allowed. You're not, fishing a kosher fish.
No capital.
Yeah, no, I know a guy who goes up to Alaska and gets, a bunch of salmon and freezes it and brings it home.
But
Yeah.
fish are carbs, so it's done.
Fish are parva, and right, but fish do have quote unquote blood, but yeah, but the only way in which a land mammal can be killed to be kosher is through the
proper way.
what do you call it?
You're bleeding a certain way, you do one slice.
Yep.
Only allowed one slice.
Right.
And then you have to
If
completely.
you take out a bear like that, I will pay that.
Yeah, but bear isn't kosher anyway.
45.
Bear isn't kosher anyway, but if you, could you creep up to they're now coming up with kosher bison. Because bison is a kosher animal, for those of you who like that kind of stuff, and they would have to have a farm. It's domesticated. It would have to have a farm of a bunch of bison, and then figure out a way to run them through some sort of a maze like they do with.
To lift them, you need hydraulics.
Tell
Yeah.
them
I
not to
didn't
get any
look at that.
ideas.
Yeah, what?
Tell Jamie not to get any ideas.
Okay,
I looked
okay.
that up. You
Yeah.
need to be able to pull it and have it drain.
All right, it's great questions. You interrupted me on this stuff, but at some point I will send you guys a list of some of these films. This is Resistance with, again, Jesse Eisenberg, and this is based on Marcel Marceau, the mime, the incredible mime who survived a war, was French, maybe you're not old enough to remember, was mime. He used to do like shows, and he grew up in France, and he,
Marcel.
what's that?
Marcel.
Marcel Marceau, but his name was Marcel Mongol, and he was an aspiring Jewish actor. And Eisenberg actually learned some of the miming that he used to do. But anyway, he and several of his friends collected and saved the lives of children, and they created a little, like a school, and they kept them safe from the Nazis. So all these movies are coming out about these people. The one movie I do recommend, but see it maybe after a little bit of like preparing yourself, is this movie. If you are not offended by violence, this is the movie about the Bielski brothers, 4 brothers in the really Ukraine today, who survived and brought people out into the forests near Kiev. And what did I say? It's about resistance. I am a big student of resistance. And then this one is really also interesting, and it's different. The Wildermir children is based on the children who were sent in the Kinder transports to England. And that Windermere is just a place in England. So all these kids who were survivors, who were taken out of Germany or Austria or Hungary with the allowance of the Nazis, but their parents were killed. But there was a German-born psychologist named Oscar Friedman and these kids were all traumatized. Their parents were gone, or their parents had been killed, or they'd seen other people die, and they're living in the middle of Scotland. So it's acted with actors. Worth seeing. Finally, The Women in Gold. I told you about this one. This is a story of Maria Altmann and the Gustav Klimt painting of her aunt that was in her aunt's home. And she in Los Angeles, she has now survived, and and it's like flashbacks of her when she was younger, running away with her then boyfriend from Austria, and they had to leave everything. And it's a well-off family. So she sued the Austrian government to get a hold of this particular painting and other paintings that the Nazis had stolen. And she hires an attorney whose name is Randy Schoenberg. Randy's still living. And they fought all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then they had the Supreme Court said yes, and they had to go all the way to Austria and fight them. And so Randy Schoenberg is played by Ryan Reynolds, and Maria Altmann is played by Helen Mirren. So again, fictional, but based on a true story. So I own all these, and if you ever want to borrow one, let me know, but you can probably find most of them on YouTube. I mean, I think we should close here. Let me say one more thing, though, about this movie that we're not going to see then. Go to YouTube, look up the Jewish Americans, because I want to respect your time. And but I'll just give you a couple of vignettes. because I was talking about this, the formation of an identity, and we're a microcosm right here. Heck, we got, what's our, Clarence. You know, we got Clarence, we've got, huh?
No.
They're just doing what they're trying. Sit, come here, come here. Come here, big boy. Atticus, come here. Sit. Sit. No, forget it. Anyway, we have the same kind of microcosm here. Des is a gay man. If you didn't meet Des, you weren't here yet. Hi. All right.
We have time for his paper.
Hey, maybe he would like to do it if he'd like to. We could. But I want to look, guys, can I just have a little respect here for a moment? What I wanted to say is that this movie will give you, it starts out, part one is Jews in the early, the immigrants that came right after the revolution or during the Revolutionary War period. Chaim Solomon, Sephardic Jews, mostly Sephardic Jews. You know that Peter Stuyvesant up in New Amsterdam at the time, before it was New York, did not want to let the Jews in, you know, resisted. Washington sent a letter to the first Jewish synagogue founded in Rhode Island saying, oh no, we will not have hatred here. So that covers that. Then there's a whole section on Jews and their role during the Civil War. Some who were on the side of the Union, some who were in the South. There was a guy who was the treasurer of the Confederacy who was a Jew. And, you know, kind of not proud of that. He eventually found his way to England, where he died a rather abnormal, not so great death. So it covers that. Then we get into the 1880s, the first wave of immigration of the mostly Russians, and then the 1920s. And there's a whole section you'll find is very fun and also interesting, you know, the Lower East Side. So this is all part of our history. The theaters that covered the Lower East Side, the beginnings of the movie industry, which was a lot of Jews involved in the movie industry. And even before the movies, they had the plays. And you know that some of the plays that they had were Yiddish plays that would come over. And all these people who became, you know, later on became comedians. Then there's the whole section on what it was affectionately called the Borscht Belts. The Borscht Belt was the Catskills. And, you know, if you were living in New York City in the hot summer, where did you go to get out of the town? Went to the Catskills, and they didn't have glamorous hotels there. The Gentiles went to glamorous hotels. Jews would go to these little, you know, whatever you want to call them, little villages where you could rent a cabin or this. And my parents called it a kichelen. Kichelen mean you cook alone. I mean, you would have a little place, you know, and is it my turn to cook yet? You know. And but the hotels, if you ever watch Dirty Dancing, the movie with Jennifer Grey, was filmed at one of those hotels. And all of those, it's not played much. The Jewish angle is not played very much in that movie. It was a book by a woman. And the girl is Jewish. The baby that was played by Jennifer Grey. But the Catskills was where, I'm just summarizing the movie, Catskills is where all these comedians got their start. Joel Grey, her father, and Mort Saul was a big comedian. And these were, by the time my parents were hanging out in the 50s, they were already like getting on stage. But you'd hone your craft in the Catskills. Jack Benny, Sid Caesar, all these people that then went from the Borscht Belt to where they go next. TV, not quite Hollywood, right? Was the very first, you know, comedy shows of the 50s. I mentioned Sid Caesar because Sid Caesar, you just see him, you wouldn't know. I didn't know who he was either, but he was a very funny comedian who used to do any kind of accent. He could do German, Italian, and he was a Jewish guy. He brought in his movie, I mean, his screenwriter, like Saturday Night Live. His screenwriters were Carl Reiner, Mel Brooks, Neil Simon, Woody Allen, so all these kids that were writing for this first show that was the very first television, live television, usually done in New York before Hollywood. And so that made, so you go from the 20s to the 30s to the 50s. Then it gets into the 60s and the roles that Jews played in the civil rights movement. It's really heavy because the Jews were involved in helping King and the NAACP, but there was also a backlash. I'm not talking about from the racists. There was a period of time, even before the Black Panthers, there was a period of time where some of the more militant blacks did not like having, so we don't need your help, we got our own problem. So they kind of pushed the Jews out. Or there was, and there were Jews in the South even then who also were afraid to get involved. So there was both sides. Another thing it covers, by the way, is you see this stuff and you'd be blown away. The Leopold and Loeb's story. There was two Jewish brothers who were accused of murdering a woman, and they were lynched. This is in the 30s in the South. And it ends with like not even contemporary, because now it's 20 years ago. But you know who Matisyahu is? Who's Matisyahu? He's a Jewish rap artist, right? And Matisyahu grew up, Matt Miller, in I want to say White Plains, New York. Typical Jewish kid from a Reconstructionist synagogue. And he grew up and he always loved reggae. So he loved reggae and he followed all these reggae people, and he became an Orthodox, a Hasidic Jew. He went to Israel. And so you see him in the interview talking about why, as a Hasidic Jew, he still loves to do rap and reggae. So he became a big reggae star and people loved it. And people would say, "Oh, who's this guy?" And they didn't know that he was a Jewish chassid. So I managed to see him in in Berkeley. Now he still lives in Israel, but he took off the beard and he doesn't want to be identified with the Hasidic scene anymore. But I don't know if he's still Shomer Shabbos. But for a while there, it was so weird to have a Jewish Hasidic reggae star. And another one of the interviews they do is with my friend, I wish I could say he really was my friend, but I knew a man, Julius Lester, probably the most famous African-American convert, really amazing guy. So watch the movie sometime, but not tonight. Go, but.
So the version of Shabbat at Sinai Synagogue in New York.
Yeah.
And they combined one of his songs with Hashki Baby.
Uh-huh.
And it was the most beautiful.
Yeah.
Song. And like the whole congregation, it was like, I was just so shocked that they would combine the song. It was beautiful.
It was the song. What was the song? Oh, that's a Matisyahu song. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, cool. Wow. Neat. Very cool.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the Zoom video that they do is like,
I know.
you have multiple angles and it's like a whole production. You're like, where am I?
Yeah. Angela Buchdahl has an incredible congregation. Yeah. All right, guys. May I give you all a blessing? May I give you all a blessing? All right. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and guard you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisar Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the road that you're traveling be a road of peace and completeness and wholeness. May you be guided by, I'm ad-libbing here. May you be guided by angels for the rest of your lives. And what a blessing you've been in my life. Thank you. Amen. Okay, cool. And like I said, what was it, Bilbo Baggins said, the road goes ever on down from the, is that something in there? So, so for you, for you and you, next Friday, essays. I mean, you're getting to know you essays, and Rick, for you, soon, end of March, whatever. Okay, cool. All right, I'm doing Friday. I'm going to be talking about Purim. And this is the Shabbat in which we read